Hey all, welcome back. I've got another TradeSkillMaster video for you. This is going to be for the War Within. Now, I won't be teaching you how to use TradeSkillMaster in retail. I've recently made a full TradeSkillMaster Newbie Guide for Cataclysm Classic, and most of it, if not all, of the information contained in that new guide series of mine will carry over to the retail version of WoW. The only difference is that we can use the DB market price source when it comes to pricing for our posting operations, since it works in retail versus classic. So if you have any questions on what does what in TSM in retail, please head over to that guide and it'll teach you step by step. Okay? I'll be posting a link to that guide in the description below. So let's get into what this video is about. I've recently been trying to help people learn more about TSM or TradeSkillMaster and how helpful of an add-on it can be, saving you time and helping you get the best price for your items without much effort involved. I'm a very lazy gold maker. I tend to want to put as little effort as possible when I'm farming, mailing, or posting items to the auction house as a whole, so I can get to the actual game's content and have fun playing that. So first, let's go over TSM and my profile, so I can show you what you'll be getting. I'll be explaining a few settings that you need to change to make this work, and how to edit the posting operations to form to your own service economy. Uh, but it's super simple once it's all explained, so let's get into it. So in the description below, I will be posting a link to my coffee page where you can get my complete War Within a TSM profile that I use to make all my gold the lazy way. Now the profile will be free for anyone who wants it, but making these profiles and these videos takes a lot of time, so I do ask you that you consider supporting my work if you can. Every little bit helps me get closer to my goals. So thank you very much for your support. Okay, so this isn't going to be, like I said, a TSM guide from scratch for retail, right? I'm kind of expecting people that watch this video just to grab my profile for the War Within and then use it. Now, you're going to need to learn how to import a profile. So let's go over my profile real quick just to give you a sense of what it contains, okay? And this is what it looks like. It is extremely detailed. Like, I have went through every material, every profession, every, everything basically in the War Within, and put it into its own special little category. And you can just come down here and search for a section, and it should be here. I don't believe that there's missing anything in this profile. So it's going to be extremely detailed, a little bit overwhelming if you're new to TradeSkillMaster, but everything is titled, labeled, and organized in its own section. So if you're looking for something in, let's say, the fishing section here, right? Okay, you'll have your buff items, your lures, your pole buff items, all these, your tools, extra materials, right? Let's say you're in jewel crafting, right? Well, you can now, search by like glassware, finishing reagents, your blasphemite meta and stuff like that. It's all going to be organized for you. So it's extremely organized. Not to mention, down here you'll have a special section for like cosmetics, your lock boxes, or pets, that kind of stuff, toys. So everything it has its own little place here. Okay. So let's not get too overwhelmed by how large this profile is. And let's move into how to import this profile that you'll be able to get off of my coffee page into TSM. Okay, so first off, importing a TSM string or profile is just like you would with the weak ores. If you've ever done a weak ore import, basically a string is just a bunch of letters and numbers, right? That you just copy and then paste them into the import box, and it'll just put it into the game, right? Same concept here. Okay, so we're gonna go over to our settings tab real quick, and I'm gonna come down here to the bottom, and I'm going to create a new profile. Okay, so I'm gonna type new profile, and just hit enter. Now, I want you to do the same, okay? Don't use the default. Just come over here and just type in a new profile. So you have a title for it, whichever way you want, right? And then, so you know what you're doing. So it's basically a clean blank slate. Okay, so when we come over here to our group section, right, you'll see there's nothing here anymore. It's completely gone. Same thing with our operations, our auctioning operations and our mailing operations. They're completely wiped too. So now to import a profile, okay, go get mine, copy the string, come over here in game, and to the top right hand or left hand side, you'll see to the right of search groups, you'll see import group. Okay, when you click this, you'll get a pop-up that shows this, import groups and operations. Okay. Now, when you copy the string to my profile, make sure that you copy it correctly. Okay. So that you can get it all, you know, imported correctly. Because if you don't, if you're off by one letter, it'll say invalid import or something like that, right? So when you copy it, come into the game and hit Control V, right? And this is what will happen. Another pop-up will show like this, called the import summary. And basically, it'll show you what the import contains, right? So we have 421 groups, we have 12 operations, and 1,477 items, okay? You want to make sure that down here at the bottom, you have the include operations and replace 5 existing operations, okay? You want to make sure those are yellow, make sure they're checked, okay? And then what you do is you hit import, and then you'll see here, you got the War Within profile that I just showed you guys. So the BOE gear and the crafted BOE gear are extremely detailed. I mean, I basically went helms, necks, shoulders. I took every slot in the game and made their own section for epic, rare, uncommon qualities. It's super detailed. But yeah, you can just go over here to the left and click the little arrow, and it'll or collapse it down to a smaller size so it's more manageable here. But that's how you import a TSM profile or my TSM profile into the game. Okay, so now that you have my profile installed or imported into TSM, let's go over what we need to talk about, which is going to be how to edit the operations, the posting operations in TSM, so that they fit more to your server economy or to your gold making style, whether you like to post things at high prices and wait, or if you like to sell them cheaply and quick, right? So let's get into how to do that. Now, up here at the top, you just open up TSM again, and then we'll go to the operations and go to the auctioning operations here. Now, as you can see, we have some operations here already created. Now, those are the ones I have made personally to attach to this install or this profile, okay? Now, I'm just going to say this right out of the gate. All of these operations are already linked to sections in the profile itself, okay? Or into the groups. So we'll get into that in just a second. But so over here at the top, we have a general cell operation, which is basically something you just attach to the group itself. To just be basically a default cell operation in case something sneaks through the cracks when you're creating your profiles or adding new things. It has at least an operation attached to it. Okay. Now the BOE operation is what it is. It's basically the BOE items operation that we're going to attach to it, and it's going to be our default pricing for all of our BOEs. Same thing here with our materials, consumables, and professions, our patterns that drop, our pets that drop, and special operation, which is basically for special items. Like if you're doing the Shadowmourne quest line, and you get like a bunch of the loot out of there, you can add it to a special section, which will price it at a higher value, so you never sell it for like undervalued. So these are going to be basically your bread and butter operations, and you can create new ones if you want to personally, if you feel comfortable doing that, by coming up to the general cell operation, and then over here to the right hand side you'll see this little copy paper thing. Click that and it'll make a duplicate of the operation. Now to the right of it, as you can see, there is a trash can. If you click that, a window will pop up and it'll prompt you to delete the operation. only do that if you want to just get rid of it completely and then create a new one or something. But when you create a new operation or copy, I guess the general one, you make sure you want to come up here to the top right hand side and click on this rename pencil, and it'll give you the option to rename the operation to whatever new operation you're trying to create. Okay, you want to make sure that they're not the same name, right? So, okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna exit out of that and we're gonna delete this here real quick. Just confirm that. Now let's get into editing the operations to where you can change their prices. Okay. Now over here in the OE tab, we got our details list, but we also got our postings. Okay, and this is going to be the brains of the operation, where everything's configured to like show you how or tell TSM what to post an item for, basically. Okay. So basic posting options up here are just leave them default. The 12 hours, one post for BOEs at a time. Down here at the bottom though, the posting price, let's explain this one. The set bid as percentage of buyout is going to be what you undercut your own buyout price and set as a bid option on the auction house. Now, a lot of other add-ons don't have this feature to create a bid option. So this is going to be very helpful for you using TSM because it'll actually offer the buyer a bid option. Now, it's set at 90% here, which is basically 10% of an undercut of your current buyout price on the auction house, okay? And I find 90% to be a decent undercut. You can lower this if you want to, but I would never drop this below 75%. So if you come in here, click this, and you can change this to 75% and hit enter, and there you go. The thing is, you don't want to get too heavily undercutting your own buyout price with a bid option, because you can actually ruin the markets. You said ruin your potential gold making if you undercut too much of your buyout, right? So make sure you play with this, but be very cautious when you do it, okay? Now the undercut amount is going to be what you undercut the other person's buyout price by. Goblin code of conduct is to undercut this amount by 1 copper or 1 silver. TSM can't do 1 copper, so we're going to do 1 silver here just to be courteous to our other goblins out there. Now, below here is where we get into the interesting stuff. I would suggest that you never change anything inside the brackets or the wording and stuff like that. Just change the one thing you need to do is the percentages here. Okay. Now, the min price, max price, and normal price, let me explain those. They pretty much sound what they are. This is going to be the minimum price I'm willing to sell an item for in the auction house. Okay. And of course, it's the maximum I'm willing to sell an item for on the auction house. And of course, this is the normal price that I generally want to sell an item for and or undercut someone else in the auction house, okay? So the minimum price here, I would suggest never changing it ever, okay? Because if you go anything below the 15% average of the current market and historicals and stuff, you're going into like selling it for less than vendor values and stuff and things like that. So we don't want to change this any lower than it is, okay? Now, let me kind of explain here real quick what's going on. Now, the string here, the operation string or the posting string, is AVG, or 15% of AVG, crafting, DB market, DB region sale average, or AVG, DB historical, and DB region historical. Okay, now, and then at the end here, we have a 5 times vendor sell. So let me go through that again and explain each and every part of it so you can understand this if you're new to TSM, okay? So the AVG is average, okay? So we're doing average of 15% of average of our current crafting function, DB market function, or DB region sale AVG, DB historical, and DB region historical. Okay. Now, the functions inside here all correlate to certain things, right? Okay, so we have a crafting operation here, which is basically if you created something, it has a value based on the materials, and it kind of tries to value it based off of that, right? Now, the DB market is basically what the DB market kind of is the market average or market price for the item, right? Now, the DB region sale AVG, which is DB region sale average of the entire region, everything, right? So it will take data of what an item is worth, whether it's materials or a BOE or or a pet or anything like that and give you a average price of what it kind of sells for, right? And then of course you got your DPS historical and region historical, which are basically what this is sold for in the past, right? And not only on your the server you're on, but also on the region side of things too. And then this other one here at the end is 5 times vendor sell. This is a protection for you when you post something to the auction house. It will never, at minimum, post it for less than 5 times its actual vendor sell price. So it's kind of a protection there in case things get super scary low on the market, right? It just makes sure that you never sell it below vendor sell, okay? So that's what that means. Okay, and so basically, these are sequential, meaning that they go from the low 15% to your normal price to 110%, and then to your maximum to 350%. These percentages on these need to go up and up and up. They can't go from, okay, I put in minimum, let's say I put 150 here, and then in my normal price I put 90, and then, 5 in my max. It won't work, okay? They have to be sequential, so 15 to 110 to 350. Just make sure that when you're changing these percentages here, that you keep that in mind, that you just don't mess up like that, okay? Now, like I said, the only thing you need to change to affect the pricings of these are the percentages here in front of the first or second AVG percentage, okay? So I have mine set to, like I said, 110 to 350%. I told you we're not changing the minimum from 15 at all, okay? We want to keep that one there. It's as low as you want to go, okay? So let's say for the maximum price, you think for your server economy, 350% is just too much, okay? Well, we can change that. Just come over here, select the 3, and then hit 2. Now we've changed it from 350% to 250%. Okay. Now, let's say your normal price at 110%, average of 110% average, right? Well, you say that's just still too high. Well, we can change this as well down to 80%, okay? And then hit enter. Now, you can mess with these prices as much as you want to get the price that you want to post things for, right? So if you are a big undercutter, like for some reason, like you want to come in here and dump this down to 50%, and the maximum price you ever want to sell an item for is 120% or 25%, you can do that, right? I mean, you may sell the item quickly, right? But you're going to lose, I guess, a decent amount of profits if you don't, do that. So, or let's say they were completely reverse. You want to sell things for the maximum price possible, so we're going to come over here instead of 300, we're going to put 500% here, right? Or in our normal pricing, we don't want 50%, we want 150%, right? Just change these the way you want them. Now, I believe personally, let me explain this. I believe that my hosting operations that I have, that I use myself, are adaptable enough to work with the markets, sell the item at a competitive value, and not sell them for ridiculous pricings. Okay, so if someone comes in with a BOE or a transmog item and like dumps it up on the auction house for 175,000 gold, right? Your 350% maximum plus the data it stores here with all these functions, right? Will say, well, that's just not what it really sells for, right? It will then price it accordingly and undercut that ridiculous $175,000 gold item to a reasonable market value. Okay, so that the maximum price here is basically for protection for stuff like that. Okay, your normal price is just going to be for what you usually sell things for on the daily. Okay, or undercut other people. Now, this isn't going to be a full TSM retail guide for you guys. I'm just trying to explain how to change my profile that you download, okay? So, let's go over to the materials tab real quick and touch base on this. You'll see that we have a 50,000 cap here, because if you're a, professional, or if you're just a dual gatherer or something like that, right? You don't really want to keep those materials in your bags, right? You just want to get them out, and you don't want to have a cap, so just put it 50,000 and just post, right? Over here, down in the min, max, and norm, right? We've changed our minimum price up to 30. average of 30% max, because we never want to sell our materials for cheap. We want to sell them for a competitive price, right? And we also removed the vendor sale protection because materials are never going to get vendored. Okay, they're gonna fly off the auction house ridiculously fast, right? Because these, unlike BOEs, are region based, right? So they sell all over, not just on your server. So they'll fly off the shelves. So there's no reason to have a vendor sale protection here. And of course, that being the case, since they fly off the shelves really quickly, we want to be aggressive with our normal pricing and maximum price. Or so we have now, instead of average 110 average, we have max 110 max here, so that we're posting them at the highest market current value that we can, right? Plus, if there's none in the auction house, which is super rare, you want to make sure you're posting it for a ridiculous amount. 500% of max, right, of the current markets. So that's how the materials tabs work. The consumables and professions kind of work the same. We want to sell them for as much as possible as well, and as many as possible. But we want to also make sure that we're kind of staying not ridiculously high when things are not on the auction house, but we want to sell them for competitive pricing on our maximum, so we have it at 250%, okay? And then patterns, of course, those are going to be just like your BOEs. You want to sell them competitively, but you don't want to overprice them. So they're going to have kind of the similar sell as your BOE op. But you can come in here, like I said, and alter these as well. If you find that your patterns are being priced too high or too low, so. And the pet operations here that we have, we never want to sell our pets for cheap, okay? We know that pets sell for decently priced, depending on what it is, right? Things like the golden eye that I have right now currently in my bags, right? That thing sells anywhere between 125,000 to 270,000, right? It's a really, really good pet, and we do not want to accidentally post it on the auction house for 50 gold, okay? So we want to make sure that our posting operations here are aggressive at 200% max of max for the normal, 600% of max for max, and then of course we want to up this to 25, or we could even up this even higher to, like, I would say 30 to 40% if we wanted to here on the minimum. I think I'm actually going to raise it to 35, just because. And then our special items operations, right? Now this is going to be for, like I said, something like if you're doing the Shadowborn quest line and you get a bunch of those really cool toys and, things like that. You don't want to sell those things for cheap. You want to put a more aggressive pricing on them, right? You want to make sure they sell for the maximum amount, even if they take, 6 months to sell. So we have here a special ops item that you can actually add to those special items if you get them, right? So, and they're currently at the normal, do 250% max of max, 800% max of average. 800% is really high. That's why I put the average after it, just to make sure we could kind of skew it down so we're not posting it for 2 million gold, right? And then, of course, our min here, I have it set to 25, but I may raise that to 35 again. I think 25 is a little too low for our more aggressive operations here. So, and that's basically it. I mean, like I said, if you want to just come in here and edit these percentages to fit your kind of gold making style, like I said, if you want to sell things for super cheap really quick, or if you want to sell them for maximum profit, or if you want to go in between and sell them for, current market values and, be reasonable, I guess, in the selling, that's how you do it. You just change these percentages and leave everything else the same, okay? Okay, so let's talk about groups real quick. So I'm going to open up TSM again, and I'm going to go over to our group section. And I'm going to talk about, so this profile that I'm giving you, right, I'm going to be adding another subsection underneath it, another group, okay? And I titled this one Old World Farming, okay? Because if you actually just have the War Within profile, you're going to end up with a ton of stuff in this ungrouped items and bag sections with nowhere to put it, okay? And I didn't want to leave you guys hanging like that. I wanted you to have a place to put all that stuff. If you do a lot of transmog farming, or you do a lot of time walk dungeons or something like that, right? If it's not the War Within related, you won't have a place to put it if you just install the War Within profile, right? So I created this new subsection here for you called Old World Farming, and it's going to be segmented out pretty generically compared to my War Within profile. but it'll work for you just the same. Okay, so it'll have all the sections here. Like there's an ignore section that the War Within one does have. I'll explain that one here in a second. But see, I have I'm a scribe, right, on my druid farming tunes because I didn't want to make a rogue to unlock chests while I was doing 5-man farming. So I have these things called scrolls of unlocking, right? But I don't want them to be sold. I don't want them to be mailed or anything like that, right? So I put them in this ignore section here. Now, this kind of works the same way, where if you have an item in your bags that you don't want to be sent to anyone or your bank alt or, posted to the auction house when you go to do posting, if you put it into this ignore section, it will be ignored completely. Okay, so super helpful. The other ones, of course, it's just plain and simple. You've got your BOE section here with all the transmog or gear you get while you're doing your farms. It's all subsection out into qualities here. You got your white and gray RP items here. Your materials for cloth, herbs, ore, all that stuff segmented out down here. When you're farming, you get a lot of world food, vendor food, right? That you just want to throw in here. It'll ignore it or vendor it, so you don't post it to the auction house constantly, right? Then you got your monster crafting parts for like your righteous orbs. You got your potions for your mana potions and stuff like that from Old World. Down here, I made a random tab that has like your bags that you get, like your journeyman's backpacks or your large knapsacks, that kind of stuff that you just get. Dark moon cards that randomly drop from Old World. You got your fishing stuff, your lock boxes, which I will explain specifically in the mailing section because it's really important. But you've also got your rep items, like if you do Zulgur rep farming for your Zulian coins and things like that. Plus, you've got your usable section down here for like things that you can actually use, like either your scrolls that drop in the world or your like heavy armor kits that tend to drop from chests and things like that, right? Every place, even patterns down here, your designs, formulas, plans, all this stuff down here. If you get something to drop, you can just throw it in here in your pattern section, and it'll be stuffed away there. And then, of course, your pet section. So if you're doing old world pet farms, like for the whelps, or what I like to farm is the goldeneye and the spine crawler crab. Sorry, from Timeless Isle. Those are just really huge gold sellers when they do sell. So I like farming those quite a bit. But if you get a pet, and you want to put it in here from Old World, just drag it and drop it into the pet section down here, and it'll be all organized. So I really hope this helps you here in this section when you have a bag full of non-War Within stuff, okay, and you have nowhere to put it. This is where you can put it, okay? So I hope that really helps you out. Okay, and we have one more thing to explain here, and that is going to be how to add groups. Here real quick. Now, like I said, I'm not doing a full TSM guide for retail, right? I'm just going to quickly show you, let's say you wanted to add something to a certain group in either this Old World Farm section or in the War Within sections, right, that I've designated out. Okay, so we're going to use the old one because I'm here already. So let's say in the material section under cloth, we wanted to now add a bolts section, right? Because we wanted to segment that out, which kind of ties into our mailing operations that I'm going to explain next. Okay, we want to subsection that out so we can now have it alone. Okay, because right now our cloth here in our material section, we have everything. Over here we have bolts, we have just regular cloth, that kind of stuff. We want to segment out the bolts. So we can come down here to the right hand side real quick and hit the little plus circle sign, and it will create a new group underneath cloth. Now it'll prompt us to rename this, so we can rename this bolts. Okay. And now within this thing, we can actually go over here, click on the bolts that we have in our list, and then drag and drop them into that bolt section. Now you can see we have in our cloth section we have everything, but in our bolt section, when we click on that, we just have our bolts. Right. Now what this is going to allow us to do is dictate where that can be sent or how it is valued, right, or on the market. So we can actually make custom operations, like I said earlier, on pricing this differently if we wanted to. Or we can make a mailing operation attach that mailing operation to this bolt section and then send these bolts to our tailor, right? And then use them. Very, very helpful when you're trying to, in the war within as well, right? Let's say you have a jewel crafter, right? And we want to come down to our material section here, right? And we want to come down to our mining section. Now we want to send all of our ore, our basic ores, our acarite, bismuth, and iron claw, right? We want to send that to our jewel crafter. If we create a mailing operation, we can now attach that mailing operation to our basic ores tab here and then mail that to the character that you want. Okay. So here, we're going to get into how to create mailing operations next. I just wanted to touch base on how to actually create a group, a new group, or section, I guess, in your groups if you wanted to. Now, if let's say you don't want to have this group here again, right? We can go over here, click all of those bolts. We can drag them back up to cloth, emptying it. And then we can come over here next to it to this little trash can icon and hit it, and it'll prompt you to delete this new created group, right? And then it'll take it away. And then you can see that in our cloth sections, we still have our bolts items in that section. So that's how you do that. Okay, so let's get into the mailing operations, and this one should be really quick. Okay, so creating mailing operations with TSM is going to be super easy, but you do have to do a little work yourself here, okay? Because I can't know your characters' names or all your professions and all this other stuff, right? So this is going to be specifically up to you. So you have to go over here to your operations tab and go down here to the mailing operations. As you can see, it's completely empty. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to create a couple mailing operations here real quick, and then you can just extrapolate how to make new ones from there, okay? For your specific setup. Okay, so let's get into making some operations. The first one you would want to make, obviously, would be your bank alt character, okay? If you don't have one already, I suggest making one. You know, go make a level 10, go through the starting zone real quick, and then, you know, camp it at a capital, you know, Ironforge, Stormwind, Orgrimmar, or, you know, Thunderbluff or something like that, right? Just make sure you have a character that you've created that is going to be dedicated to sending all of your farming stuff, whether it be your BOE, transmog stuff, or your materials, you know, that you can just boom right next to an auction house. It's going to save you a ton of time, okay? And so to do that, just come over here to the mailing operation and then click the little plus sign, and it'll drop down a new operation. Okay, now what we want to do is rename this. Now, this character is Goldie Gears. She's my bank alt on Moonguard. So I'm going to come over here, go back to operations, go to mailing. I'm going to rename this, just for simplicity, as Goldie Gears. And then I'm going to put a dash and Moonguard. Okay. And that's going to be my title for this operation. Okay. It's pretty simple. This is going to be Goldie Gears from Moonguard. Now, if you wanted to go even further, you could actually title this, you know, Goldie Gears Bank Tune on Moonguard, right? If you want to be more specific, but as long as you know who your bank alt is, you don't have to be too specific here. Now, underneath here in the general options, target character. This is going to have to be pretty specific, okay? It's you can't just type Goldie Gears here, but if you type Goldie Gears dash Moonguard, that's going to specify that this is going to be a Moonguard character, okay? For that realm. You have to do this. So whatever character bank alt you create, make sure you put a dash and name of the server that you're on. So it would be like Goldie Gears dash Tichondrius, Goldie Gears dash Area 52, right? That kind of stuff. Just make sure you spell it right and you have the spaces correct with the realm that you have, okay? And then that's pretty much it for that. Come down here to the bottom, and you'll see this section called Group Management, okay? Now, this is going to just be pretty simple. You click this, and you'll get basically a drop-down list of everything that you've created, all of your entire profile, basically. So we have our War Within profile that I've given you, right, that you've installed, right? And you also have the profile here for the Old World farming sections, right? So what we want to do is, just to make this pretty simple, is we'll go over here to the tops of these, to the groups, right? And we'll click on them, and then that will select everything, uh, encapsulating all of the profiles, okay? The groups underneath it, okay? But you see how we want this, there's like this ignore section here within the war within, right? If we click that, it'll black it out. We don't want that one because we don't want mailing operations attached to this one, right? Same thing when it goes to our old world farming, right? We don't want this one being sent either in this ignore. So if you don't want a section in these things that you've either have from me or that you've created yourself later on, you can just ignore them. There is another way to remove the mailing operations, which I will show you in a second. So I'm going to actually re-enable the ignore or the mailing operation for the old world farming section here. So we're going to then select group, okay? And it may take a little bit because it is a huge profile to add that operation to everything, okay? Your computer might kind of freeze up a little bit. But there we go. Okay, so now it basically, if you look down here, you see the apply group operation. It applied it to everything. Okay, so now when we are farming, we will be able to go to the mailbox, which I can show you real quick here. Okay, and let's say we want to mail something. If we go over here to the group section and we click this, you see that we have now everything in our group section here. So when you are out farming, okay, and your bags are full of loot, materials or BOEs or pets or whatever it is, right? And you go to the mailbox and you have Goldie gears or your bank tune, right, set as the mailing operator, you would just have to press this little button down here called mail selected group items or mail selected groups, and it will literally just automatically start sending stuff out right to your bank tune. Okay, it doesn't matter how many you have in your bag, just start sending them right away. Okay, so that's really helpful, extremely helpful. Okay, so let's go back into our TSM real quick, and now, like I told you, I did not want a mailing operation in our old world section here. Okay, so I want to go to the ignore tab, and then I want to go over here to see items on the left-hand side and operations on the right-hand side. You can come over here, and you can actually click this, and you'll see it has general sell operation. Well, if you click that, it won't sell it. You want to make sure this is blank, okay? But down here, you'll see the mailing operation, and you'll see that it has Goldie Gears, Bank Tune, Moonguard, right? Click this little button next to the override parent operation until it's blank, and now it will be completely ignored from your mailing operation. And you want to make sure that you come underneath it. Sometimes it doesn't actually apply the override, so you want to actually make sure that anything underneath it, the best way I find is to do like a double click on it and it will then remove it, but sometimes it just doesn't do that. So you got to make sure if you have subsections under a place or a group that you don't want to be mailed, make sure you check those as well, okay? Now, this would be really cool down here, like in our cloth section, right? And this applies to the War Within operation up here as well with our, let's say, with our bismuth ore, right? Our basic ore here, right? So we want to make an operation that sends all this ore to our jewel crafter, right? So I can go to operations, go over here to mailing, and then I can hit the plus sign here, create a new operation, and then I can title it, type it Ryako Jewel Crafting mats. Okay. And then I can do even better, I can detail it a little bit, ore, okay? The War Within, ore. Okay. So that is just a basic title like we did with our bank tune, right? And then I can type in here, I can type in Ryako, I can put in a dash, Moonguard, and then I can come down here to the bottom section and click on the add to operations to group section, and I can just go down here to materials and find our basic ore ores, and I can attach this group to that. Okay, as you can see, we've attached it here. And go back to groups, find the bismuth ore in our group again, and go over here to the right-hand side to our operations. And you can see how we have Ryako, JC, Matt, the War Within ore attached to it. And it will have it subsection down all the way to the bismuth. And, okay, Iron Claw. See, this is why you want to make sure you double check this real quick. Even though we just added it to our ore, basic ore, right? It's still having Goldie gears attached to our Iron Claw. TSM is not flawless, by the way. So you have to make sure you're double checking stuff like this. But basically, we can come over here and we can just hit the override once, and it will take away the Goldie gears operation for mailing it. So it's pretty simple. Now, when we go to the bank or to the mailbox, okay, and we go to the groups tab over here, right, and we hit mail selected groups, right. If we have the War Within related ore in our bags, okay, it will then send it to my character Ryako, who's my jewel crafter, right? So you can do this in any profession, material, cloth, enchanting mats, the ore, herbs, you know, you could just skinning, leather, scales, that kind of stuff. Just make an operation, okay, like we just did here. Title it whatever you want, and then apply it to the group you want. Just make sure that the character's name that you select here is named properly, right? And it will send those materials directly to your character that can utilize them in their profession. So super, super helpful. I mean, I like I said, mailing operations are like one of the easiest things to create in TSM, and they are like just the biggest help you can possibly have when it comes to organizing and mailing things out and getting things off of your character that you're farming on and to your bank tunes and onto the auction house as quick as possible. Okay, so that's pretty much all you need to know on how to import my profile that you can get on my coffee page, edit the posting operations, creating new groups, where to add old world items to the old world farming groups, and creating mailing operations so you can send to your bank tune, and how to send specific profession items to your crafting alts that can use them easily. So to get my profile, just head over to my coffee page where you can get it for free. If you would consider supporting me when you are over there, it would be greatly appreciated. Every little bit helps me reach my goals. Thanks for watching, and I hope my profile helps you make much more gold in the War Within. I hope to be able to make another one, more detailed profile for Midnight when it comes out. So thanks for watching, and until next time.